Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be talking you through the Philosophy, Religion and Ethics sixth form opening evening. Welcome. Thank you for showing an interest in studying philosophy, religion and ethics A-level. I'm going to try and cover as much as I can in this presentation, but if you do need anything, please email me. My email's on the screen. My name is Miss Meta, and I'm subject lead of RS at Key Stage 3 and 4, and subject lead of Philosophy, Religion and Ethics at Key Stage 5. In this presentation, I'm going to cover the purposes and aims of philosophy, religion and ethics, what you can expect to learn in philosophy, religion and ethics, extracurricular opportunities in philosophy, religion and ethics. We're also going to look at kind of where this A-level can take you, the qualification details, and also how you can prepare. So in front of you now, you can see the trolley problem. This might be something you've encountered before. The trolley problem seems to be used a lot when we talk about ethics. The idea of this thought experiment is that there is a trolley, it's an American problem, a tram, I suppose, in this country, headed towards 5 people who are tied up on a train track. You stumble across them and you also find a lever. You could pull that lever and save the life of the 5 people tied to the train track. But if you do that, you are responsible for killing 1 person also tied to the train track. The dilemma here is, do you pull the lever? Most of us are going to feel a little bit like this. If we pull the lever, are we to blame? If we don't pull the lever, are we also to blame? Our decisions might change if the one person tied up on the track is a family member or a child, or a doctor with a cure to cancer, or a criminal. Now, this is just a thought experiment. This isn't something that most of us, hopefully all of us, will ever encounter. The issue is, though, this problem is something that we are being asked to solve in our everyday lives. One example of this is the Tesla. The Tesla, as far as I'm told, I've never driven one, has a self-driving mode. And part of this has to be programming it, telling it what to do in certain difficult situations, right? Should we save the most people in an accident? Should we save the youngest people, the human over the animal? Teslas are machines. They can't make these choices based on the situation in front of them. They have to be programmed to make a certain decision at all times. One part of kind of making this choice was that Tesla conducted a survey. What was interesting about that survey is that in Eastern cultures, there was not a preference between old and young, but in Western cultures, there did seem to be a preference to saving younger people. Another example of a situation much like the trolley problem in the modern day is during the pandemic. Doctors and nurses and various different kind of medical professionals had to make very real decisions about who should die and who should live. You know, who should get oxygen? Should it be old people? Should it be young people? How do we make those choices? This kind of discussion continued when the vaccine came out and people were kind of saying, you know, should we give it to older people or should we give it to people who are working on the front line? You know, who should get it? These are just 2 examples, but actually in kind of lots of different job settings in the modern day, we are being asked to make these kind of life or death decisions. And that's where this A-level comes in. Philosophy, religion and ethics is a great A-level as it helps you think critically about the world we all share, and not only the world we share, but the world we have to make decisions in. It also allows us to explore the nature of human life and morality as a whole. What does a good decision look like? What does it mean to be good? If we think back to the trolley problem, what would have been the right choice? Would it have been to save the most people, or would it have been not to intervene at all? It also allows you to develop your own values, beliefs and identity, thinking about kind of where you stand in all of this, what your viewpoint is and why. Philosophy, religion and ethics also helps you develop a wide range of transferable skills that are useful in a wide different range of jobs and subjects. It helps you develop advanced literacy skills through the reading of complex extracts and scripture and regular essay writing. One brilliant thing about the edXL course is that it has an anthology. This anthology contains readings, very kind of manageable readings, but from various different scholars. One of my biggest difficulties when going to university was that I never had to engage in kind of a long text. I never had to kind of read different philosophers' ideas for myself. University was a struggle because I was presented with these big texts, but I had no idea how to read them. edXL provides space in their scheme of work for us to look at these big texts, actually read the words of the scholars we are learning about and discussing ideas. It's also a really engaging subject. I don't want to say that we discuss and debate every lesson only, but there isn't a lesson that goes by where there isn't some sort of thoughtful and meaningful discussion. So what can you expect? Philosophy, religion, and ethics is one of those subjects where there isn't a clear-cut answer to the questions that we're asking. And because of that, discussion and debate about a wide range of ethical, philosophical, and theological topics take place. We also have really challenging lessons. If you think back to the trolley problem, that's not an easy thing to talk about. And we touch upon a wide range of issues like this that can be really difficult to learn about and make us question and think about why we think the things that we are thinking. There's lots of independent learning, as well as working as part of a team. Like I said, when we have questions that don't have a clear-cut answer, it's really important we are talking about why all of us have the thoughts we have and where they come from. And if we do have different opinions, why we have different opinions, where does that come from? These lessons are designed to encourage you to voice your own beliefs as well as listen to the views of others. We also, as I said earlier, develop literacy skills through excellent essay practice, and that's really important throughout life. Extended writing is something we sort of never move away from. In the A-level, you will study 3 papers. I have posted the link on this PowerPoint, but it is important when you go onto the specification that you only look at the papers that we are doing, as all schools have a choice. We choose to do the philosophy paper, which is paper 1, the religion and ethics paper, which is paper 2, and the Sikh paper, which is paper 4F. You'll study 50% of this content in year 12. We don't have an AS paper, but we do run internal mocks in year 12. We then study the remaining 50% of the paper in year 13, and you'll be assessed on all of the content through 3 exams, which I'll come back to later. In the philosophy paper, we might ask questions like what happens after we die, if anything. We'll also ask, can God exist in a world full of suffering? And if God does exist in a world full of suffering, why do we have suffering? We'll also ask how we know God exists. What is there in this world that tells us there must be a God? We might also ask questions like, did man create the idea of God, or did God create man? In the ethics paper, we might ask whether we can have a just war in the modern day. Wars in the past didn't have access to nuclear weapons. In the modern day, we have situations where more and more civilians are being hurt. And if that's happening, how can we justify war? We also might ask what a good decision looks like. And if everyone has a different idea of what being good means, how do we be good? We might also look at whether an embryo has the right to life before it's born, and if we don't think it does, at what point does it gain this right to life? We might also ask whether faith can help us live a good life, and if good doesn't come from faith, where does it come from? In the Sikh paper, we might ask whether Sikhs living in the UK should be allowed to marry whoever they want, regardless of faith, race, or social background. And we'll do this by looking at a range of different Sikh writers and their opinions on this. We might also look at whether Gurdwaras in the UK should start using more of the English language. We might also ask how the roles of women have changed over time and what equality looks like within the faith. We might also look at what impact living in the UK has had on Sikh beliefs, values, and practices. Extracurricular opportunities in philosophy, religion, and ethics are brilliant. It's a subject that lends itself to doing lots of things. I suppose in the past few years, many people feel like they haven't really had a chance to kind of go out and experience their subjects. But we're really keen over the next kind of few years to build this back up. In 2019, a small group of sixth form students took part in a trip to Rome. This is something we plan to run in the next academic year. I've been in contact and arranging this, so once we have numbers of people taking the course, we'll look to booking that. As we read from lots of scholars who are still alive and still doing lectures, we try and get to those as much as possible. One of the biggest questions you'll have is where philosophy, religion, ethics can take you. Philosophy, religion, and ethics is about people, and there's no job that doesn't start with people. I think most of us will be able to kind of name a time where we've been in a situation where we've had to kind of speak to people that are different to us, or have difficult conversations with people we don't always understand. And this subject really sets the tone for that. It builds the skills that you need to live in a complex world. On the screen, you'll see a sports reporter and a chef talking about how the subject has helped them. On the next screen now, you'll see a law student and a firefighter discussing similar things. You know, this understanding of cultures, religions, and how that's important, the ability to debate and question. We now have a doctor and a politics student. This is a really valuable qualification because it demonstrates to university and employees that you can understand diverse viewpoints and analyse complex subjects critically. Philosophy, religion, and ethics helps you develop transferable skills that can be useful in a wide range of jobs. And I've listed a few on the screen, but this is by no means kind of, the only jobs it can help. It helps you develop advanced literacy skills through the reading of complex extracts. And for me as a teacher, that's one of the key strengths of this specification. The idea that the anthology can kind of teach students how to engage in scholarly work, really kind of difficult text, is brilliant. If I had had this before I went to university, I would have found the kind of independence needed at university and kind of the ability to read really in-depth text a lot easier. Philosophy, religion, and ethics demonstrates to employers that you can work with different types of people. We don't always get to choose who we work with, and we don't always, get on well with the people we work with, but we have to make it work. And this subject really allows you to voice your opinions and communicate in those kind of more tricky situations. Many philosophy, religion, and ethics students go on to study various different things at university, really, from history, education, philosophy, theology, politics, and even philosophy, religion, and ethics itself. In the subject, we've had some really great success stories with people going off to Cambridge to continue their studies in the subject. There are lots of kind of virtues that you develop. I've picked resilience, diligence, enthusiasm, and determination. But as we are looking at these really complex things and making decisions about them, we are using our virtues to come to those conclusions. This A-level is examined through 3 two-hour exams. All of these exams will happen at the end of year 12. The good thing about this is that the actual questions you are asked are the same style. The content you need to use changes, but the question types don't. So over the 2 years, you'll be practicing and building those skills. Each paper counts for 33% of your overall qualification. There's no coursework and no external exams in year 12, but you do have mock examinations in class and kind of official mock examinations throughout the year. Preparing for philosophy and religion and ethics, there are actually some really good books out there that kind of set the scene and set the tone for the course. You're more than welcome to drop me an email to get a more extensive list. But these two for the philosophy and the ethics paper are brilliant and made by endorsed by the exam board. For the Seek paper, we have a variety of different ones on the screen, but again, if you want to get in touch and find out kind of more specifically which ones I'd recommend, feel free to drop me an email. The applications are now open, and should you wish to study philosophy, religion, and ethics, I can't wait to welcome you to my classroom in 2022. Thank you for listening.